In this video, we're going to start exploring the massing environment within Revit. Now, for this demonstration, I'm going to access the massing environment through a massing family, just by going here from my start page in Revit to families, then going to new, and then here I'm just going to go to the conceptual mass environment and then choose the metric mass. Now, of course, if you're using the imperial system, you're going to have the same option. If I just go back a couple of folders, here if I use the English imperial, again, we have the conceptual mass folder, and when you open that up, you have the mass option. So it's basically the same approach. I'm just going to go back here. I prefer the metric system, so that's why I'm going to be using the metric mass family template. So just like any other family, you select the template, you hit open, and that's going to open up the massing environment. But of course, unlike all of the families, the tools are quite different. So if you're familiar with the family editor environment, you have the tools for creating extrusions, sweeps, blends, revolves, swept blends, etc. Now here in the massing environment, it's quite different, and it can be really confusing, especially when you're just getting started. So here we have the Create tab, just like in the Family Editor, and unlike in the Project environment. And on that Create tab, we only have here, we have some draw tools. Here we have the option for model, or basically a model line, a reference line, and then also a reference plane. And these are the tools that we can use to create either one of these. And after that, we have some options when it comes to the work plane. We have, of course, the component tool, and then we just have the dimensions, levels, and that's pretty much it. We don't really have any additional options. So creating forms in this massing environment is a lot less straightforward, unlike in the project environment or in the family editor. So basically, you want to use these tools in order to create something here on screen, and then Revit is going to kind of help you turn that into a form. So let me demonstrate. If you want to create something that resembles an extrusion, maybe something like a simple cube, what you want to do is go here and select the rectangle tool. Now, when you select the rectangle tool, you will notice that immediately the model line will highlight. Now, we can, of course, switch that to the reference line, and then again, we can go to the rectangle tool. If we switch to the reference plane, now here we're quite limited. We only have the option for a line or pick lines, but that's okay because usually reference planes, well, always reference planes are just flat planes, so these are the only two ways of creating them. So just by selecting one of these tools, Revit is just automatically going to default to the model line, and we're going to be talking about the difference between model lines and reference lines in an upcoming video. But for now, let's just go here to the rectangle, and now we can create a simple cube. So basically, you click once again, and as you can see here, we can work in the 3D space. And something that I should probably mention as well, when it comes to creating elements in the massing environment, you're going to stick to the 3D view in most cases. So unlike the project environment and the family editor, where you usually switch from floor plan views into elevations, sections, so on and so forth, here you can do most of the work in the 3D view. As you can see, the reference planes are visible even in the 3D view. You can see the levels, you can see pretty much everything. In some cases, you might want to switch to an elevation or a floor plan, but you will see that most work can be done straight inside of the 3D view. So anyways, we have created our simple rectangle, and now when we select that rectangle, something else that you will notice that Revit will immediately select the whole chain of lines. So if these were walls in the project environment, you would have to use the tab key to select the whole chain of walls, and here it defaults to a chain. If you want to select just one line, you would have to hit the tab key and toggle that selection to just an individual model line. Now let me just hover over the whole thing and select the whole chain of these lines, and something that you will notice is that here on the Modify tab, well, we have some new tools coming up. So of course we have the option for the subcategory for our lines, And in most cases, you're not really going to bother with the subcategory. You're just trying to figure out a shape. You don't really care about the subcategory of lines. But the most interesting tool and the most important tool here is the Create Form tool. It does have a drop menu where you can create either a solid form or a void form. But for now, let's just stick to solid form. You can click either here, or you can click here just directly on Create Form, and as you can see, it's going to create a simple extrusion. Also, it's going to highlight the top face and give you this little gizmo on top, which will allow you to change the height of this extrusion. Also, you can orbit around, find the dimension, and here you can actually type in the exact height of that shape. Now, when you come and you want to select that shape, as you can see, it's going to select individual pieces, either model lines or whole faces. But to select the whole form, you have to kind of just hover over it, hit the tab key, usually only once, and that's going to give you the whole form. Now, unlike in the family editor, in the properties panel, you don't have the options for the extrusion start and the extrusion end. That's because Revit doesn't really look at this as an extrusion. It basically looks at it as simply form. So everything that we create here is going to be simply form. When it comes to the properties panel, you aren't really going to have many things to set up. Just the material, the visibility, and also is it a solid form or is it a void form? And that's pretty much it. So you're not going to have too many options to set up here when it comes to this, these forms. Now, of course, you can play around with them. You can change this extrusion just by selecting the top face and extending it there, or you can select one of the side faces and extending there, or you can go even further and select individual lines and stretch it out that way. So we can pretty much create any shape that we might want. Also, you can go one step further, select the individual points, and then you can stretch those out as well. Now, one more thing that I would like to show you when it comes to creating these forms and using the Create Form tool is that sometimes it's going to give you more options. So when we create just a simple rectangle like this one and select it and go to Create Form, it's going to default to an extrusion. But if we were to create a circle like this, select that circle and go to Create Form, it's going to give us a couple of options. It can either create a sphere or a ball, or it can create some sort of a cylinder. So Revit is going to try to be intuitive about the shape that you're trying to create, and it's going to try to figure out what you're trying to create. Now, when it's not sure what you're trying to create, it's going to give you basically a chance to choose exactly what you want. So if I create an extrusion like this, it creates a cylinder, or let's go and create another circle here. Hit the escape key a couple of times, select it, go to Create Form, and let's select that sphere. Now, as you can see, we have a sphere here. So, as you can see, you can create different shapes from simple geometry such as circles and rectangles. Now, of course, this is only the beginning, and we can take this a lot further, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing in the rest of this chapter.